I built a novel GPT model trained specifically on writing books for authors. With ChatGPT's new update, you can now build custom GPT models specifically for your writing needs. And I went overboard with it. I created a thriller GPT model, a romance GPT, a mystery GPT, a sci-fi GPT, fantasy GPT, nonfiction GPT, blurb GPT, a book cover GPT, horror GPT. I went nuts. I even created a voice architect that will analyze your writing style and voice that novel GPT can mimic when writing your novel. Let's see how it works. So number one, we're going to want to create our voice in voice architect. And I have a document in the description you can download, but basically it goes over your tone in your previous writing style. So you have dictation and word choice, you have syntax and sentence structure, you have the detailed level, you got dialogue, how your characters speak, you have literary techniques, rhythm in your speech, you have the tone of the story. For mine, I have sacrifice and loss. You have the narrative voice. You can choose third person, first person, whatever narrative you want to write. And then you have the writer's voice elements. This is the influence of the background, education, and belief system and values. And then you also have a section for writing style. If you've written books in the past, for me, I have a couple books written, and I'm just going to grab just a section from my book, and I'm going to copy and paste it. All right, so I have a section from my novel. I just paste it into the Word document, and then I'm going to save it to my desktop as a Word document. And then I'm going to open the voice architect inside ChatGPT, and I'm going to upload the document that I just downloaded. And now I'm going to prompt the voice architect to create a unique voice for me. Alright, so now I have a unique writing voice, but there's one thing I want to do. I want to prompt voice architect to create a framework for novel GPT to mimic. Alright, so now I have my unique writing voice. I'm going to go ahead and copy this into a new Word document. Alright, so now that I have it in a Word document, I'm just going to title it my unique writing style, and then I'm going to download it. Now we can move over to Idea GPT and start generating some ideas. Alright, so I'm just going to give it a few ideas. So I'm thinking Star Wars meets supernatural generate an idea for a science fiction novel. Alright, so now we have a plot. If you're familiar with the ChatGPT novel system I created, it's based off of this. I trained idea ChatGPT on that framework. So we have an arc, but we also have an X factor that adds a bit of plot twist to our idea. So once we have an idea that we like, we can go ahead and move on to character development. But if there's something you don't like, you can go ahead and highlight it and then prompt idea GPT to change the ending. And depending on what kind of story you want to write, you can make it more dark and, let's say, moody. So now it will rewrite that section for you, but keep everything else the same. So I'm going ahead and stop it, and then I'm gonna copy the plot and idea into a new Word document. And then I'm going to call this the plot or the idea. And then I'm going to download it. We'll need it for later. And now we can go ahead and move on to character development. I'll keep it light for the video, but this will be inside StoryDev GPT. And StoryDev is human trained to assist with a wide range of storytelling elements, from plot, character development to immersive world building. And right now we'll just use it to create a cast of characters. So I'm going to upload my idea, and I'm going to prompt it to generate a cast of characters based on my idea. Now it's going to search the document, and it's going to create our cast of characters. If you don't like the names, you can swap them out. If you don't like the roles, you can prompt ChatGPT to rewrite that specific character. Now I'm going to ask it, who are the main characters? And I'm going to limit it to 3 main characters. Leave the rest as supporting roles. Alright, so we got our 3 main characters. What I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to add this to a new document. Alright, so now I have my cast of characters. I'm going to download this as a Word document. And now we can move on to some world building. And actually, I'm just going to prompt it to develop the world the characters live in, include technology, society, and norms. Alright, so now I have some world building. I'm not going to keep all of it. Really, I'm just interested in the technology. So I'm going to copy and paste that into my Word document. I'm going to add this to the bottom, call this world building. And then I'm going to get a depiction of the main character. So describe the appearance of the main character. Alright, and now I have a depiction of what these characters look like. I'm going to ask I'm gonna ask it to generate a image of it just so I could have a visual representation of the main character. So generate a epic depiction of the main character, Kale. And while that's doing that, I'm just going to drag Kale's description, paste it in my Word document. Alright, so now we have an image of the main character. I'm going to just download that for later. We can use this as the cover art or the book cover for when we publish. It's all up to what you want to do. So now that we have that, we're going to move on to Plot GPT. And we're going to bring in our unique writing style, our idea, and then our characters and world building. And then we're going to ask it to generate, we're just going to say generate a plot for the story idea. Now, depending on how many chapters you can write, you can be more specific. So you could say generate a plot for the story idea that spans across, let's say, 20 chapters or 40 chapters. Alright, so it developed a subplot and gave some world building to include. What we're going to do now is we're going to copy this again and add it to a Word document. Let me clear that, paste it here. So now that we have our plot, we can move on to creating an outline. So we're gonna open Outline GPT, and we're going to attach our documents. So we have our characters and world building. We have our idea. We have our unique writing style. And then we need to save our plot. File, download, attach the plot. Now we're going to prompt it to generate an outline. Actually, before I do that, let me be clear on this prompt. Let's say the outline should be 20 chapters. Alright, so now it's giving us just a brief outline. But depending on your outlining style, you can get more specific with this. I have a feature inside of it where it can outline it in a form of narrative. That's usually how I like to write my outlines. I learned that from James Patterson. Alright, so now we have our outline, but for example, if you wanted to get more detailed about your outline, you can say rewrite chapter 1 as a narrative. Alright, so now it's getting more detailed about the outline without actually writing a full chapter, giving you much more room to change things and direct how the story will go. So I'm gonna let that go. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and copy this outline. Create a new doc. And then I'm going to download it. And now we can move on to Novel GPT. Novel GPT. And again, we're going to upload our documents. So we have our novel outline. We have our plot. We have our characters and world building. We have our idea. And then we have our unique writing style. And now I'm just going to prompt it to write the first chapter. So write chapter 1 using the novel outline, plot, characters, world building, idea, as a narrative using my unique writing style. Each chapter should be 2,500 words. %20 of the chapter should be dialogue. Alright, so it says it's going to write 2,500 words, but I found that to not be the case. Is usually around 500 to 1,000 words. That's why I usually put the max amount of words I can, because usually when I put the max, I get the most amount of words. But I really have no problem going back in and telling it to expand this section with more detail. Alright, so I'm seeing a lot of dialogue. Alright, so we have chapter 1. Again, if you don't like something about the chapter as far as the story goes, go ahead and highlight it, right? And tell ChatGPT, I did not like the flow of this paragraph. Make it more fast-paced. All right. So you'll do this with every single chapter, however many chapters you have. For example, I have 20 for this one, so I would go through this 20 times, telling it to prompt chapter 1, chapter 2, and so on. But once you have everything, go ahead and copy it and paste it into a new Word document. Do this for each chapter, and then you're going to want to run it through editor GPT Editor GPT is trained on editing your novel, checking for continuity issues, punctuation, and weird word phrasing, because sometimes the phrasing can be weird with these outputs, and it just runs through it again and makes sure everything reads well. So Editor GPT is a part of it. You'll upload that document and it'll run through it. Once you have that done, do some quality control, hire some beta readers, and then publish. Now, if you want to get more specific and use a genre-specific genre, I trained a few GPT models on specific tropes and story structure. I trained Now, if you want to get specific, you can use the genre-specific GPT models I trained specifically on tropes and story. Now, if you want to get specific, you can use the genre-specific genres. Now, if you want to get specific, you can use the genre-specific GPT models that I built and trained specifically on those tropes and story structures for those individual genres, like romance, fantasy. You have thriller, mystery, science fiction, horror, nonfiction, as well as a blurb GPT model, where if you already have a book but it's not selling, you can go ahead and upload the novel here and then read it. It'll read it and then create a high converting blurb. I use that for my recent not my recent novel, a past novel that I've written. It's just been sitting on Amazon for the past few years. I went ahead and updated it, and it's doing much better. So go ahead and check that out. The link will be in the description. It will save you a lot of time and eliminate the excessive prompting that you have to do with the normal ChatGPT model. With that being said, I'll see you in the next one.